Now, from CBS 4 News, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Good morning, I'm Jim DeFede, and welcome to Facing South Florida. This country has seen challenging times before. Our history is replete with traumatic events: a civil war, the assassination of presidents, terrorist attacks. And so I'm always wary of those who say the times we live in today pose a threat to the future of America. But there is something dangerous, something scary about what we are seeing. So I want to spend a little time this morning talking about that. And joining me is someone who has watched the president's impeachment up close and is now a member of Congress, Donna Shalala, who represents the 27th Congressional District, which covers Miami Beach and parts of Coral Gables and even more. Congresswoman, thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
So I start with that idea. I want to talk about a number of things with you. I want to talk about health care, prescription drug medicine. I want to talk about, Syria. But I do want to start with impeachment and what's going on in Washington right now. How do you sort of put in context this time that we are in our country?
Well, it's a sad time. It's also a time in which we really have a constitutional crisis because we have to make a decision about what the president did, not why he did it, but what he did, and whether that's an impeachable offense. But I think more than anything else, I didn't go to Washington. I didn't get elected to impeach a president. But I have a constitutional duty to look at the facts and to make a decision. It took me a long time to agree to sign on to even the investigation. But what did the president do? He got on the phone. He used non-government officials, for the most part, and pressured another country to investigate one of his opponents in the presidential race. And he withheld federal money from that country, who are desperately, the Ukraine, who are desperately trying to hold off the Russians. So, in other words, he actually helped the Russians by withholding money from the Ukraine government unless they were prepared to announce an investigation of Joe Biden and Joe Biden's son. It's outrageous, but it's also against the law for him to do that.
Well, so that's an interesting point you just raised, because one of the things that we've been hearing a lot about from Republicans is that those who oppose impeachment say that in every prior case of impeachment, a criminal offense has been documented. In the case of Bill Clinton, you saw that. You served with Bill Clinton and his administration at the time. It was perjury. Richard Nixon, there were other issues that were there, as well as criminality that would have gone there. I have not ever heard anyone clearly articulate what specific criminal statute, what violation of law the president is accused of having broken.
It's actually a violation of his constitutional oath, and that is he's not allowed to tell another country to interfere in our elections. We just had a whole investigation of Russian interference in our elections. Here's the President of the United States using federal money and pressuring another country to interfere in our elections.
But what you're articulating seems to be abuse of power, not necessarily a violation of law.
Abuse of power is an impeachable offense.
And that was the point I was ultimately trying to make.
I don't know whether
you don't need a criminal act.
You absolutely do not need a criminal act. This is abuse of power, and it's more than just an abuse of power by him. He had a group of lawyers, including Rudy Giuliani, who were end-running the Secretary of State, more importantly, State Department officials who are supposed to conduct our foreign policy. He had a shadow government putting pressure on the Ukraine government to interfere in our elections.
Now, the president says over and over again that in his press conference with the president of the Ukraine, Zelensky, and Zelensky has repeated this on other occasions, that he did not feel pressure, and that at the time of the July 25th phone call, he didn't even know the military aid was being withheld at that moment.
That turns out not to be true, that people in the Ukrainian government definitely knew. But more importantly, the president's position has been negated by high officials who currently work in the government, including ambassadors, the acting charge of the affairs. They kept copious notes. They have documented that the President of the United States and his government were interfering in the affairs of the Ukraine, more importantly, withholding money, which is in the interest, after all, of Russia, not just of the President of the United States. Ukraine is fighting Russia. They're fighting for their survival, and they needed the military assistance to be able to hold off the Russians. It's a clear abuse of power, there's no question, now documented by individual after individual who are not political appointees, who kept careful records of the conversations.
And one of the points that I think is important to make is that while the president says that he was just simply asking for corruption to be investigated because the issue of corruption is important, of course he can't cite another instance where he's ever asked the government to look into corruption anywhere else. It wasn't that he was even asking for an investigation. The key to me was that he's asking that there be a public announcement of an investigation. In other words, putting Joe Biden on notice and the American voters on notice that Joe Biden is under investigation and his son is under investigation in the Ukraine.
It's clearly an abuse of power.
All right, but let me ask this. Are the Democrats making a mistake by collecting so much of this information, some of it you've referenced, behind closed doors in classified briefing settings?
Let me make this clear. Democrats and Republicans are collecting the information. It's like a grand jury situation. Because we don't have a special prosecutor that's going to write a report, they're substituting for a grand jury by the committees holding, getting depositions from, for the most part, people who work for the government that have the information. But Republicans are present, their consuls are present, Democrats are present with their consuls. So it's not like Democrats are collecting the information. The committees are collecting the information together.
Will these transcripts be released to the public?
I expect them to be released. More importantly, there will be public hearings because this information will be transferred to the Judiciary Committee and there will be a public phase. Right now, over 100 members of Congress can legally participate in these hearings. While they're under closed doors, so are grand jury investigations. So are grand juries when they collect depositions.
I want to go back to a point you made a second ago, and I just want to elaborate on it. The fact that there's not a special counsel here. Some people might say, well, Robert Mueller was involved in this. No, Robert Mueller was investigating Russian interference. He had nothing to do with the Ukraine. In the case of, for instance, again, Bill Clinton, in the case of Richard Nixon, there had been special counsels who were gathering evidence, gathering information, and presenting it to Congress in the form of a report. As I understand, essentially, the three committees that are now meeting, Intelligence, Oversight, and Foreign Affairs, are holding these closed-door meetings with Republicans and Democrats alike, gathering the information. Are they going to write a report and send it to Judiciary?
They'll send a recommendation to Judiciary. They'll send a report of the information that they have to the Judiciary Committee.
Now, one of the things that Democrats are often criticized for during the Mueller hearings and the rest is that they do not do a great job when it comes to sort of packaging and presenting what they find to the American people. That a lot of the dense language that was in the Mueller report sort of got lost. Robert Mueller made a terrible witness himself. That the Democrats basically are not very good at this, especially when you do a situation where you have 5 minutes for a Democratic member to speak and then 5 minutes for a Republican. You can't build any real momentum. Have the Democrats learned from that? I realize you're not on these specific committees, but have the Democrats learned from that? You sit in the caucus. Will they be better at it this time?
Oh, I believe so. But more importantly, the message is clearer this time. The abuse of power is clearer. The president clearly made a phone call and sent representatives, some of whom were on his personal payroll, to pressure the government of the Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden. And now we have coming forward people who were told by the Trump administration not to testify. Representatives of the National Security Council, of the Defense Department, and more importantly of the State Department, who are current employees coming forward and telling a story of abuse of power.
Based on what you've seen so far and what you understand, you would vote to impeach the president for abuse of power?
I will wait because I haven't been in the meetings. I will wait and hear what the committees report, and I will wait until the Judiciary Committee makes a recommendation. But it's not because we haven't all seen this information. It's because I believe this is a very solemn responsibility. This is a very serious business. You do not easily call up a president, accuse them of abuse of power, but more importantly, a vote to impeach a president. So
then why do it? Why do it if there's just going to be an election next year? We're almost a year away from an election. Why put the country through this? Why not just simply issue a report and move forward and just say, this is something that you should take into consideration whether or not to keep Donald Trump as president come November 2020? Because
it's our constitutional responsibility. Because that's our responsibility. When there has been an abuse of power, and this president has double-dealed. He's made money out of being president with his hotels. For heaven's sakes, we had to pressure him to withdraw his invitation to use the Doral, his own hotel, to host the G7, which would have brought money to his own business, which he basically has refused to give up.
When you have, I mean, I realize you're a freshman, but you've also been around for these
I'm not a
folks.
rookie.
You're not a rookie. You've been around for a fair amount of time. The Republicans that you talk to in the House, they have one very public face, which is to be in lockstep with the president. Are any of them, do you get the sense any of them are troubled by what they are actually hearing and seeing?
Deeply troubled. And every time the president sends out a tweet that's racist or sexist or, more importantly, in this case, where he clearly was not telling the truth to the American people, they're deeply troubled.
But what does it say that they can't speak up publicly, and that there is still a large segment, 35, 40% of the American people, who are supporting this president, who cheer and scream on his behalf at his rallies, who cheer him on, and will not entertain any notion that he's done wrong?
I think they're afraid of him. I think they're afraid that they won't get reelected.
But
let me make another point, though. Profiles in Courage is a very thin book. John Kennedy wrote Profiles in Courage. There's just not a lot of courage there.
So, but that's regarding members of Congress. Let's end on this. Talk to me about what you see in the people who are supporting him, who are opposing him, the division that we have now within our media, within the folks who turn out to rallies. Why do you think he engenders such support? What are the Democrats missing here in understanding?
Well, I don't think we're missing anything. This is the politics of resentment. This is the politics of people who feel like the economy has been unfair to them. This is the politics of people who see their children not being able to afford college or coming out with big debt. This is the politics of people that don't have any faith in the media or in our democratic institutions because they think that the world, our country, has a kind of unfairness built in for them. They should really be supporting Democrats because Republicans have consistently favored the rich versus the working class. We've lost some of that. But I talk to people all the time. I come from a working class family. This has put them over the edge. So they really are sitting up, large numbers of people, suburban women, working class women in particular, are sitting up and saying, maybe this isn't such a person we ought to support.
Let's take a break here. I want to come back. I want to talk about some issues that are facing the country that I know you've been working on. We'll pick that up when we come back. We'll be right back after the break.